specific people for what you are doing? Yeah, I'm coming to you. Yeah, as indicated earlier, that if the purpose is clear as to what is it that you are trying to achieve, then you are fine. But then already, as the institution, you have that safeguard where you have already gotten the consent of the school teacher or principal who will be bringing the kids here, and the disclaimer my colleague was talking about earlier to say in the course, that is in that manual you'll be putting together, you will indicate that during the course of our operations, people are photographed, etc., and you will notice that when we are showing scenes, and then if you have such here in the museum, normally at the door there is that thing that premise under surveillance, so that everyone knows that all your activities that you are doing here are actually recorded. If you cross the line, then there will be repercussions. Oh, it's fine. Yeah, if you look at the back of this legislation, where it was, there is an indication on a number of legislation that have been repealed or amended, etc., the Copyright Act is not listed. So it means copyright law still applies. You know, you can plagiarize. You need to indicate the source where you got the photo of Dennis Maake from, or you indicate Dennis Maake 2022, maybe June or something, to say I was here and so forth and so forth. So if you're not breaking this law, there is another law that you also need to take care of.
Okay. Advocate Maake, I think there'll be so many of these questions. Remember, we've got an online audience and they can't hear the questions because there are so many. But yes, you wanted to say?
Yeah, I wanted to say apologies. There were a number of questions which were put through that maybe I also need to quickly deal with here. And then maybe they'll also spark a number of questions around the room. This is one of the questions. Okay, there are a number of questions from the people who joined online. They are saying, will the POPIA training be available to private operators that are not part of Iziko or its own establishment? I don't know, maybe that comes to you and the executive director to say what other training interventions are you having for private organizations?
You're asking me? I'm
asking you.
So which question is that?
Okay, maybe this is the last question. Okay, maybe what we can say was that Iziko requested that we have this workshop, but then any other private individual in the whole country, if they feel that they need such workshops, they can actually, they must write to the information regulator. The information regulator does such training for free. They go to all institutions, but then they indicated to us that what they will do is that they need to put that in their schedule. So as private individuals or museums not here in attendance, you can also get such assistance from the regulator themselves. But myself as a public official, if requested and arrangements are made, I can be able to come and give a talk. It must be noted that maybe that is what you have signed for. I think that is covered. Oh, you want to make a follow-up? Workshops in other regions. And for museums that are still affiliated to the Southern Association, icons of Africa, is therefore reform to the that either they are private or public, but they are not the. Okay. Yeah, can I then go to the next one? The next one was in terms of private museums, how can POPIA be enforced? In my introduction, I indicated that POPIA is for public bodies and non-public bodies, meaning all private individuals and private companies, they all need to follow this legislation. This legislation applies to everyone in the country, and there are similar legislation elsewhere within the whole world. Then, okay, then the last one, the last question was, will it be reasonable for a heritage site to request a copy of your ID document as a means of booking or access? Maybe we can ask the house, how do you feel about that? Okay, I had a no. So I think the answer is no, because this also deals with issues whereby they will ask your ID copy and further process it in other, it's an unsolicited act that will be done if they're doing that. Yeah, what do you want to do with that document? That is the question. Yeah, yes, I think in that case, you just need to deal with the bona fides of the people. They will say that we are a school group from this place, or we are a foreign touring company in coming to South Africa. Then already you know that these ones will be, if ever your charge structures indicates that there's a certain amount to be levied to foreigners and a separate levy that is levied to locals, then you can deal with that. Okay, those were the actually there are 5, but I think the 5th one was dealt with. Okay, the 5th one is about when you are doing auditing, whether you can request that the attendance register be part of what needs to be audited, and then you contact the person. Okay, you see, this act is clear to say anything that you are doing, you must do it minimally. Not try to like create mountains and mountains of unnecessary. It was indicated in the preamble to say there must be that free flow of information, but unnecessary requesting additional information, or maybe trying to contact me whether I was indeed here. It comes down to that issue of bona fides to say you must accept my bona fides as a principle that we must uphold.
Okay, can I just, I still have a concern that we're not dealing with the act. It is a real concern for me because it's not as straightforward as some people are asking about the questions. In here, I think it is explained what it means to take a photograph of someone. It is stipulated over and over what you must do. You must de-identify the person. You're not taking a photograph of the person, you're taking a photograph of your program. And I think that if we're not going to deal with this, really read it through, and then we're going to miss, our questions won't be focused. We won't get a proper answer at all. And I think that for 20 minutes, we just need to read through it, because it's very clear answers on many of these questions, and we can find it. And I think we must just work very systematically, very quickly through it, so that we know where to find those answers. Things like an ID document at the front door, of course you can ask, one can ask for it. But there are conditions, right? Conditions. You can take virtually photographs or collect information from about anybody, about anything from anybody, but what's your
Justification.
what's your justification, or what are the conditions? And constantly it must take us back to the wording of the act. And I am going to say that I am going to very quickly go through it. Otherwise we're going to miss an opportunity, because the questions are very specific and it's being given. But there's more to it. That's why this document is being written. Also, something that I'm concerned about is that we're having a lot of loose questions, and we actually do have an online audience. We're just going to move through it. I'm going to move through the act, and I'm going to take a question. Yeah. Yes, no, we will allow. No, there will be. Definitely. Okay, so I'm going to proceed where I stop. Okay, and that is section 3 or page 18. Page 18. So section 3 and subsection 3 says the act must be interpreted in a manner that gives effect to the purpose of the act set out in section 2 and does not prevent any public or private body from exercising or performing its powers, duties and functions in terms of the law, as far as such powers, duties and functions relate to the processing of personal information. So there it is stipulated that you cannot be hindered to access information in your duties. If we go to the next page, page 20 or section 5, when it speaks about the rights of data subjects, so the person you're collecting the information from, highlighted there is lawful processing. Lawful processing. So it comes back. So what's lawful processing or lawful collection? You refer to your 8 conditions. In the first paragraph, to be notified that personal information about him, her, or it is being collected. So that was one of the conditions. In paragraph C, it goes to request, where necessary, the correction, destruction, or deletion of his, her, or its personal information as provided. And then we go on to paragraph D, to object on reasonable grounds relating to his, her, or particular situation. And then E, to object to the processing of his, her, or personal information at any time for purposes of direct marketing. So if you proceed with that section 5, you can see there are various stipulations there with regards to the data subject. 6 is important in terms of exclusions. Now, I just want to refer to something here in this document that talks about exemptions. Now, we'll get to it. This act only refers to SARS as being exempted, but otherwise, no body is exempted from the act. So let us investigate. Under exclusions in section C, the act does not apply to the processing of personal information, A, in the course of a purely personal or household activity. So within your household, there are certain, you're the owner of the house, you rule the house. So it may be quite difficult for you to control measures there within your family. Paragraph B, that has been de-identified to the extent that it cannot be re-identified again. Wandile, there's the answer. That is the answer to taking a photograph. You can take a photograph of you're taking a photograph of a program. If someone arrives here for a youth day program and you're taking a photograph of the people, Jack and John and Jill and Robert and so on, you're taking a photograph of your program, not of the people. The problem comes in where you take a photograph and you put it on your personal Facebook, your personal Facebook page. And there's this person from 69, Hopkirkway, Glencairn. You can go and visit him. You can go and visit him there. He was there at my program. It doesn't relate. There's no, you're not applying those conditions. You're not applying those conditions of this act. So you're taking a photograph in the course of your duty, in the course of your work of the Youth Day program. And those people are carrying out those functions. You're doing it as an employee of a state entity in your functions. You're getting paid for it. You are using resources from the state to carry out those duties, and you need to report on it. Eventually, it ends up in Parliament. So it is important to look for these things. That's why I wanted us to interact with the document so that you can see for yourself what it says there. And I'll repeat again, section 6, subsection 1, paragraph B, where it says that has been de-identified to the extent that it cannot be re-identified again. So that is the issue in terms of photographs. It's the connection between the 8 conditions and not being able to re-identify your data subjects. Okay, we will proceed, and I'll tell you why. The answers come up. Remember the answers in the purpose, in the preamble. Why was this act written? The act wasn't written for you not to be able to photograph people. I would advocate you can interject here, but that is why that purpose. To read the purpose of it, it hasn't been written, to prevent you from doing your work. If it happens to be so that you take a photograph of human beings, as part of your program, you are not identifying them. You're not identifying them. Advocate, you can include there so that we don't run away with the fact of now we don't take photographs. What do we do? You see, and I experienced something like that, and that's also why this session came about, where I had to submit photographs of children with hoodies on, a terrible photograph, and it didn't sit well with the people I had to send it to. Advocate?
Yeah.
Can I just keep it in? Just keep it in, just keep the button in. What's the orange light? Is it going? Oh.
Okay. Okay, thank you. when you reading the act, what you need to do is that from time to time you need to go back to the definition section so that whatever is written there, you are clear as to what is it that you are talking about. Section 6 here says that the act does not apply to personal information that has been de-identified. Then you go there to definitions, and then they say to identify is to delete any information. So this means that if that photograph is there and then you have blackened it, and then thereafter tried to say these were the kids from Mitchell's Plain High School, you that act that you are doing is exempted from the act, meaning that it's either you can still exhibit that or you cannot exhibit it, because remember, immediately on deleting or defacing or blackening the face, you no longer know how Dennis Maake looked like, but then you want to now come and reintroduce that as part of the exhibition. So in that instance, the act is clear to say section 6 says that it does not apply to such an activity. Hmm. Yes. No, what I was saying was that initially you took the photo, and then thereafter when POPIA came in, there was this lots of outcry to say when you are in a situation where you need to present a photo of that group, etc. And then if it is children, you need to blacken their faces or mask them. They call it a mask or redact such information. This particular act, number 6, says that if you have blackened that photo, and then now you want to then bring it to the exhibition, POPIA then now does not apply there anymore, because already what has happened is that you can't see who's in that photo. Yeah, yeah. Yes. Yeah. 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 Correct. Yes. Yeah. 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 Okay. This 6(1)(b) actually says that if it happened that you have blackened the face, then that act or that photo then is not subject to POPIA.
Okay. Look at
Yeah. Now, just to take it a little bit further, then you remember that in that manual or the framework that you will have put together, you will have indicated that this is the purpose why you'll be taking photographs of whoever is coming here. So it does not apply to this institution, but this may apply to other institutions who may have blackened the photos. Yeah. So what is important is that when you have that framework, you detail everything in there as to what is it that you'll be doing and what is it that you won't be doing. And then you submit a same to the information regulator, so that the information regulator knows how you are handling these issues, so that if one of the subjects come into the museum and they find that there is a photo, and then they want to now lodge a claim. You remember I indicated that anyone can approach the information regulator to say, I object because, or there is this offense that I'm alleging that this institution has committed. Then you have that framework. You can prove from that framework to say, this is our position, and this has been our position from the time we wrote to you and gave you our framework as to how we'll deal with such matters.
Can I just say, look at section 7 on the next page. You see, that's why you need to read through it. There's a whole section that can explain what our discussion was about in the last 10 minutes. There's the whole section. Section 7 says, subsection 1, this act does not apply to the processing of personal information solely for the purpose of journalistic, literary, or artistic expression, to the extent that such an exclusion is necessary to reconcile as a matter of public interest the right to privacy with the right to freedom of expression. That whole section in section 7, so I can't read all of it now, but I'm going to say again, the answers is in the act. You need to read the act. You need to read the act. We need to work through the act. Line by every paragraph explains that in detail. So I, especially to our advancement department, and also to you, Nigel, if you read that very, very closely, together with what else is in the document, then you will find it is quite clear. It's open-ended at times, but you will find the answer here. But I want to say that I want to take you back to the act. Okay, Wayne, you can ask a question, then I'm going to proceed. So, yeah. Yeah.
Mm. Okay, yes, I'll come to you. The gentleman here had a hand, yes. Yes. Mm. You don't have to blacken out faces, because but you must first have that framework, which framework will indicate that whoever comes through the doors of this institution, they will be photographed for exhibition purposes, for issues of compiling annual reports, for purposes of writing to donors about the utilization of monies you have received, etc., etc. If you have such a framework, and then you submitted that framework to the information regulator, then according to me, you are fine, because you will not be breaking any law. Already, you have informed the public, the information regulator, that this is the practice here. And the information regulator is also at liberty to say, but maybe we are putting these limitations to what you'll be doing, that the photos must be, like normally in the Copyright Act, that when we are plagiarizing, that they give you about 20% chance of plagiarizing, then the information regulator may say, in these 100 photographs, we are saying that maybe only 10% can be published in any of your journals, etc., etc., not the whole lot, stock and barrel. So there will be that. Yes. Actually, if now you have not registered the information officer and deputy information officers, you are actually breaking the law. And so from like on Monday, today is Friday, on Monday, executive must sit, write down something, have a consultation with staff members and have that document, and also register the information regulator and the deputies, etc., and submit that, okay, this is our framework. We want you to look at it and critique it or give inputs, whether are we on the right frame. But as indicated that now you already have that practice that you are not blackening anything, but then now you just have to have a document signed by the board, for example, which will then be something that will bring to court should any action be instituted against the organization. You, ma'am, and then I'm going to come to answer that question over there. Melody. Mm. Yes. Mm. Yes. Yes. Mm. Yeah, yeah. Yes, that's fine. But you know that they always say that if you do any mistake, you must have something that will cover you. So in the letter that you'll be giving them, go and perform there, you'll have something there that the museum retains rights to do X, Y, Z with whatever material that will be generated there. But then just to come back to you, the answer is that the framework will be one of your drivers, so that that artistic expression that you want to put is covered, but then to a minimum, whereby you are not going to be provoking anyone or insulting anyone in your thoughts and everything. So you remember that the preamble talks about free flow of information must not be hindered. So artistic liberty is. Yes. Yes, it must be in the framework. And then for, you know that you need release forms and so on with data subjects. And they must continuously be involved. Yes, you need. Yeah, you know, in social sciences or in other sciences, you need to release forms. Yes, ma'am. Mm.
about experiences throughout the experiences. What is lawful, some of it is how cigarettes and alcohol is close against the law. This particular person will talk, so for the experience, the beautiful, in any way, that is beautiful of actually using the information and say that people, the individual, the contract belongs to the person. Iziko uses the there for the purpose of exhibition, education, and so forth, but that Iziko hold. So we also don't have the right to give the information to one or anyone else, whether it's the institute or whatever. If someone wants to use it as some tool, I will give them the person. So we may put that allowed to use their phone numbers and so forth. So the person who, for example, don't want to be known, we have this information. And this is where I suppose one of the also in our form to circulate for how long you okay, we first go to the
Yes.
we going to block out the video, only take the voice over. So we both go into this, but the price information related to they need to be identified as
Yes.
but then also for school, I think all school, in this excursion, the parents are asked for permission too. So I think what they need to happen with the vehicle is when the school asks the parents to go in and pick that box, that they also include the clause that says they will come to the vehicle and what was our parents will then indicate when they want to. I do a lot of public services, so I work with communities a lot. So I will explain, although I know both, you need one of all, but I will say that we will take focus to this for 40 days, anyone objective involved, including the social law or whatever. So I think what I'm trying to say is what this act does is they are best practices for the year, but there's also like this understanding of community and side and all of that. So it's just a matter what the act does. It's not so this is the way our work is anyway. So I don't see it being using any interpretation to what it is. But it's about saying this is best practice. But this is also about people's business. And especially when you see it for so long, it's conveniently and not even here to the people who the right about people in the way they use it. Now we say, let's respect them, even if they respect people, and we use it as a best practice, even if we respect them. And I think that I don't think that if we work accordingly, you know, that we should have problems with them.
Yes.
Because even with communities that work in communities, communities, when we take a lot of time to ask for a problem, right? I would take a photo of or somebody's feet or somebody's head and they please show me how to just blur the whole image out of there. So I think that in a way, especially our community, I don't think it's titled our authentic expression to our community, but it brings in a form of dignity, you know what, I think, and yeah, I just think that it's also allowed for me to be able to participate in how they want their stories to be told and their family stories to be told and that. So yeah, I just want to say that.
No, thank you very much. You've said a mouthful. This is what this act is all about. You'll remember that I indicated, and then also is here under the preamble that whatever that you are doing is giving effect to what is in section 14 of the Constitution, that our rights needs to be protected and no discrimination, etc., must be there.
And where the stop date of the time, June 4th, which is the Western Cape started on the 8th of August to January 1967, and we were one person from one year of the province passed away. And then I continue it was like, why is my family member slavery? And why is the fear of people that I'm like, but there's a fear of having to make, but I just kind of got involved in this. So last year we had so what actually started like 6 years I invited to work. So because it's easy, but I think our before we come from a particular part, our before we so much distorted and marginalized. And seeing the need for many people to form knowledge, because people are not doing it one. Unfortunately, our narrative, our national narrative are focused on great leaders and excluded many of the local people in communities. And I think in that way, it's kind of like, you know, so it's just that kind of that. But I think what
Yes.
is happening again also, when we had a situation where somebody was in the picture and that person was in and was whole team before the person was not acknowledged, the person didn't know that person. So we can create a lot of difficult and challenges for us if we don't try to cover the way.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, and then also what is also needed is the issue of trust relationships, because if they trust that whatever information is with you will be handled with utmost care and respect. Yes.
Okay, I've got a question before we end off. Advocate Maake, I was contacted and by someone who said it's a professional and he's doing research. This person is doing research, and this person wants to access family records, and the institution that he wants to that he's corresponding with, it's a school. Do not want to give him records that he feels belongs to him or that he should at least have access to. It's deceased family. So he wants to do research on that. And the school is refusing, and all they're telling him is they cannot give him the information because of the POPIA Act. And that's all. And they keep on telling him it's the POPIA Act, the POPIA Act. And so he wants to know what can he do? What can he do?
Yeah, this is now actually is okay. They have a right to say what they are saying, but then that person must now use POPIA in order for him to get that information. What happens with POPIA? POPIA was with the South African Human Rights Commission, but now it has moved after the new this POPIA Act came into being. Is now handled by the information regulator. The person will fill in a form, the POPIA request, send it to the institution. The institution must, in black and white, do that refusal, and then the next step will then be for that person to take that refusal to the Minister of Education, because it's the school. And then the minister then decides whether does the school have that right to refuse access or not. And then if that is not the case, indicate that, okay, they must give him access. But a failure to do that, then it will then be through a legal process whereby the courts will have to enforce that person's right to get information.
Sure. Thank you very much. Can I just, Amy?
Okay. I think it's a good suggestion that you are putting forward, and also the online kind of a platform where these matters can be spoken about. But then, in addition to that, I indicated that we have a working relationship with the information regulator. If ever we find that through our trying to find those answers, we are unable to come to a definite answer, then the information regulator is there. It's a public body that needs to handle such matters. I will write to them and inform them that it seems like I was even myself unable to answer such and such a question, but then what is the standpoint of the information regulator on that specific, on those specific scenarios that you have painted, and then they will put it in writing to us so that we can also distribute it amongst ourselves so that we come to a common understanding.
No, just Matiba.
Okay. Okay. The framework needs to touch on the 8 conditions. You can look at page 6 if these slides are correct. And in that framework, you'll do a data mapping exercise, which will whereby you'll have an inventory of personal information in possession of this organization or any other organization where you are coming from. And then you'll then distinguish personal and special information. Then the framework will also have how you'll go about auditing whether the information that you are still having is relevant to the organization. And the framework will also indicate who's allowed which level of information based on confidential, secret, top secret, etc. And then you'll have safeguards to say how this information can be shared or handled. And then we will have the governance structure to say whenever there is a complaint, how is that complaint handled internally until it is resolved. But then the institutions will also have policies on the issue of retaining information. As Mama there was saying that they have this information from those people who passed away and those that they did interviews with, and some of the videos are blackened, etc., etc. So you'll have a retention period that you have, and then indicate when such information can be destroyed. So, and also indicate in that manual or framework to say who's the information officer, who's the deputy information officer. That goes hand in hand with that governing structure to say how you escalate a complaint or when a complaint comes from outside, how do you handle it internally until maybe if there is no agreement between yourself and the complainer, when do you refer it to the information regulator? The information regulator, it is their job to ensure that whoever is seen to be infringing on this legislation or on people's personal information, they are dealt with as per the enforcement and penalties, etc., etc.
Okay, thank you very much, Advocate Maake. We're coming to the end, and in about 3 minutes, I'm going to give Ms. Snell a chance to do the vote of thanks. But as we're ending off, I just wanted to refer you to something relating to all your questions. Please do read section 26 on page 38. I think that okay. I'm just going to read that parts of it. Section 28, a responsible party may, subject to section 27, not process personal information concerning the religious, philosophical beliefs, race, ethnic origin, trade union membership, political persuasion, health or sex life, biometric information of a data subject, or the criminal behavior of data. It then goes on, it then continues. Now, this falls under a section, if you look on top of section 26, the prohibition on processing of special information. So you get personal information, and please go back to the definitions of the Act, see what is personal information and what's special information. Okay. Then if you look at 27, section 27, which I highlighted, paragraph D. Section 27, subsection 1, paragraph D, processing. Okay, I'm going to read it. The prohibition on processing personal information as referred to in section 26 does not apply if the, now D, processing is for historical, statistical, research purposes to the extent that the purpose serves as a public interest and the processing is necessary for the purpose concerned, or it appears to be impossible or would involve a disproportionate effort to ask for consent. Then in paragraph E, information has deliberately been made public by the data subject. And then finally, on page 44 or section 54. Section 34, section 34. Once again, I want to say that deals with children and information about children. Please read it on your own. Please read it on your own. So I am going to end off there. I think essentially we did highlight the look at the highlighted parts in this document. I just want to leave you with this thought. Though. This act really bothered me as a director of education because it really prevented. I could see it's preventing us from carrying out a lot of our functions. As a student, me studying at Stellenbosch University, I had huge issues for 2 months in terms of ethics regarding this act. Then I was writing an academic paper with someone else, with another person, with UNISA, and this thing also came up. So this has really bothered, really bothered me. So it was only when I read this act that I realized, but we've been told something else, I think, or the message, the voice in terms of compliance is very strong. And someone said there they are now confused because they attended workshops and they're attending workshops. Our previous workshops was about compliance. This workshop is not about compliance. I think it is to assist us to navigate our work. And the person who summed it up, I think best was Lynn, when she said, but we've been doing this all along. We're always doing this. So this act is not there to prevent anybody from taking photographs and etc. I also just want to add, I've had meetings with 8 different law firms with regards to the POPIA Act. And the question or the answer is the same. Continue with your work, continue with your work. But I just want to say to everyone, please don't be intimidated to read this document. Please don't. I read it. I started reading it one day out of pure frustration when it was load shedding. It was load shedding. I was in my office and this document was lying in front of me and I decided to read it. And I was absorbed when I got to page 2. When I got to page 2, I just read the whole document. And then I read it the second, third time. And that's when I approached my executive director to say we must look what people are telling us. It's not just about this act, it's about everything else. You know, when you buy furniture and people tell you something. So it's about everything. And also remember that this act is not a standalone, it's not a standalone act. This act interacts with other acts and so forth. I think that's all I wanted to say. Finally, remember that in terms of the POPIA Act, it is our responsibility to take care of information that we receive from the public. And thank you very much. I will now give over to Ms. Catherine Snell.
Hello. Good
And
afternoon. I'm gonna
Ms.
stand there.
Sorry, I thought you were going to sit. That's why I was holding on. Ms. Catherine Snell is the training committee chairperson of SAMA, and also ICOM is a president.
They say I sit.
You may.
Okay, feels I'm going to present now, but anyhow, colleagues, good afternoon. And we came to the end of this very, very interesting workshop. I just want to, firstly, when Bongani called me like a few weeks ago, he was like, Catherine, we have to open this, not only for Iziko, but also for SAMA members and also ICOM members. And thank you so much. But he is also the president of SAMA. So of course he has to include his members as well. But anyhow, then Bongani, to you and your team, your colleagues, all the different departments who worked very hard, to get all of this together. Thank you so much. ICOM, South Africa, and SAMA, we really appreciate all your effort. And we are so pleased that we can also be included to this. And then to the advocate, you know what? I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself, oh goodness, will I be awake from the entire time? Right? It's like almost 5 hours. And you have really caught my attention. So thank you so much for this very, very interesting presentation. And, you know, I think it was, and what is really for me striking is the fact that you are in our sector, you know what is going on, and you are able to give us the answers. So thank you so much for that. And to Hilton also, thank you so much for facilitating all of this. And going through that document, I will probably also do it when it's load shedding. I think so, or maybe when I can't sleep in the night, working through that document. But thanks a lot also for your part in all of this, yeah. And from my side, if you're not a member of ICOM South Africa or SAMA, please join us. You know, you will get the information directly in your inbox and not through a third party. So come to me. We can talk about memberships, both for SAMA and in ICOM South Africa. And on that note, I will stand back. Thank you so much.
And thank you very much to our online audience.
Yes.
Thank you.